Hi, my name is Miida. I'm a writer director based in Los Angeles. Nowadays, I mostly write high concept queer romantic fantasies. And my short in the festival is called Eureka. It's a psychological thriller drama about this indentured Chinese prostitute in 1880s American West, overcoming her toxic dependency on the brothel madame at the eve of the Eureka riot in Eureka, California. So yeah, I hope you enjoy my film.
So let's begin with the idea of this. Where did it come from? Was this more of a period that you were interested in and how women were treated back then?
Yeah, at first I was just kind of researching. Um, the long story was more so that I was traveling in UP, Michigan, where I went to high school in northern Michigan, but I never visited UP, and I was up there just like reading about the history of all these immigrant workers working in the mines. And that was because during grad school, I was living in California. So that naturally led me to read more about the Californian history. And eventually just like it was what intrigued me was this kind of the life that these Chinese prostitutes had, being in this position of both facing the oppression because of their just social status, being women, having the only viable jobs being like prostitutes and seamstress, and like that kind of position versus the outside oppression of being Asian. And so I found that a very interesting place to be, and an interesting psychological place to explore for a narrative story. So that's kind of how, yeah, that's how the subject matter gripped me at first.
Film was made through AFI, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And did they assist you with?
In terms of research, no, it's mostly to me the interesting part about period film is that there is a certain limit of historical records, and then the rest is really your imagination. And in my own view, even just recent history, like how like that kind of, there is no kind of objectivity and trying to recreate history, even in just retelling the stories, because you always put your own angle on it. So that's something that I find liberating about period pieces, that are just that the freedom it enables once you get past the point where you do your responsible historical research. And so yeah, so mostly we were drawing by it's actually interesting because photographically there is very little documentation of at least these the life of the prostitutes in American West back then. Like, so we drew a lot of, just in terms of the production design and the characters costume, we drew a lot from just like the picture of other parts of America and other parts of Asia during that time, as well as like, because the interior of brothel, there's literally no pictures. So we're drawing inspirations from like the look of opium dance, both in like Hong Kong, Canton areas of China, and as well as in America, in big cities, Americas, what opium dance looked like, because there are more pictures of these places. So yeah, photographs, documents, and newspapers were like the source of research, and yeah, for us. And I have a very good production designer who also contributed a lot. So yeah, it was a nice collaborative process.
Oh, that's cool. Now, when I was going through your bio, you mentioned that you went to NYU for philosophy. How would you say you got started wanting to make films? Because I saw that you have a big theatrical background too, in theater.
Yeah, so it's I mean, I would say my ultimate passion is in music, and film just happened to be something I really enjoy and had a lot of fun doing since I was little. Like, I started making films when I was in 5th grade, and I was doing a lot of filmmaking throughout middle school and throughout high school. Like, at first it was just on mini DV tape camcorders, and I was editing on this like PC with like 256 megabytes of RAM, and it was just like, I mean, it was fun despite the technical difficulties, and I took up the challenge, and I really enjoyed the process of creating your own world out of nothing with your friends. And I kind of making films with friends is still something I really, yeah, it's always my cherished memories. And I still try to do short, small, contained project with friends with low stakes, but more so for the sake of having fun rather than giving this polished, perfect product. So I don't know. I just always enjoy filmmaking, and the story about my undergrad was like I was getting very sick of studying film because I went to a high school where it's a art school, and I was doing film as a major. So I was getting a little sick and tired of studying it, and so I just want to figure out the answers to a bunch of the questions I had about the world, and I was just kind of I went into undergrad undecided, and eventually I was kind of settled because I was mostly interested in the kind of question about how we understand the world, how do we find meaning in the world, and I thought philosophy was somewhere that could give me some answers, but I think the academic philosophy mostly kind of sharpened my skill of asking questions, and usually those questions don't have answers, so yeah, so it's pure my time where I do very enjoy looking back fondly, where I got to yeah, really just figure out who I was ideologically, artistically, and steer me toward what kind of film I wanted to make. So
I noticed that many of your films or the imagery from your films do draw on your theatrical experiences. Like you're looking at a theatrical set in some ways, like Extremis, the wooden slats made me feel like it was like almost like something you would see on a stage with, especially with that strong light coming through as well.
I wouldn't say not from Eureka. Eureka is more, yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, there is a kind of, I wouldn't call it theatrical, but there is a kind of like creative mentality I have that is set a set of rules, a set of rules that are that come from a more kind of rationalized place rather from like intuitive place, where like for Eureka I had this idea where um the moving light came from this idea where it's like we want to get a sense of her backstory of how she came from southern China, and through being sold by her mother, biological mother, abroad to United States, and how these prostitutes back then had to hide in shipping containers to get through the custom, so that so the restriction wouldn't be imposed on them in terms of immigration status. And so a big part of the lighting choice was from this kind of from that kind of the motif of carrying that kind of traumatic experience being sold and then travel across the ocean. So that was part of it, and also just very um like throughout the kind of creative process, there was this idea of like the camera movement being pushed and pulling to symbolize like her wavering will to leave the brothel madame, and that wasn't entirely implemented toward the end, but you can see still traces of it kind of, but that's kind of the idea. Like we wanted to have all handheld shots for Long Long's character, and to kind of show this kind of free, kind of explosive kind of energy, so we can just follow her wherever she goes, that kind of, contrasting it with the way we filmed Ma's character, where everything was either on the stick or on the dolly, just kind of more restrained,
Yeah.
even when she moves, when the camera moves following her, there is that kind of measured deliberateness.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I really wanted to see whether it works, and so that when you edit the two together, there is that kind of jarringness. However, because I never done this kind of, I've never I always want to explore like how do you design the look, design the feeling of the film differently with every film. So I've never done that kind of shot design by characters, characteristic kind of approach. And
It works. It works.
I have to say, like, it's less jarring than I thought. Maybe the handheld part is not as shaky, because yeah, it kind of cut together pretty seamlessly to my
Yeah.
surprise. I was hoping to be more jarring so that it would take people out of it, but it kind of blends. Um, so yeah, so I like to think of as these kind of fundamental rules that's kind of coming from a design point of view, and then kind of fluidly kind of adapt to the plot, the blocking, as well as the constraints of production.
Can I ask you the something about the cinematography and the color grading? I saw a trailer, and I think we have it. I think somehow we got it. The trailer's in color, but the film's in black and
As
white.
of 2 months ago, I made the choice of from that point onward, I want to go for I want to showcase the film in black and white. Um, it's yeah, I just want to see how people react differently. I just want to yeah, because I mean it is a different. I'm curious what you think of the color version, because to me, I toyed with that idea in the conception of the film already, but back then I did not want to do a black and white film because this is from a kind of stereotype kind of point of view, where a lot of student films tend to be black and white because for the
Mhm.
sake of either because for example, like a period film, you would naturally think that okay, because it's period and we've seen a lot of films period film in black and white, therefore black and white seems like appropriate choice. And I was afraid to kind of give off that kind of impression to people when they watch a film where it's kind of produced under a school setting, as well as also a lot of filmmakers kind of like decide to use black and white for the sake of minimizing cost for the production. So because with color, it does adds another level of complexity for the production design, as well as a lot of yeah, the approach to it is slightly more challenging, I would say. Not saying black and white films are easier to make by any means, but so I kind of just scrapped the idea earlier on. But after a while, I was kind of revisiting it earlier this year, and as I was trying to make alternative black and white version, I was like, you know what, this kind of looks good. And then after looking at the black and white for an extended period of time, looking at the color one looks almost campy. So I was like, you know what, since the film festival run is already to the middle part, and we already accomplished kind of some sort of our film festival goals. So at this point, we're like, okay, so if we make a black and white version, let's see how audience responds to it. Like I was, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the reason. And
yeah. I mean, I did watch the color trailer, so there some of the scenes are taken and are from they're also in the black and white version, and I thought the black and white version had a lot more mood and atmosphere to it that without the color it makes it powerful, I thought.
yeah, there is a sense of that. I think because I feel like one of the reasons you picked up on the lighting choice is because that when there's absence of color, the change in the lights
Mhm.
becomes more dramatic. And yeah, and in the color there's a lot more hues of red, orange,
Yeah.
which are already pretty strong colors. So when I take that away, the light becomes the more vivid aesthetic element in the frame. So which is the other reason why I also enjoy the black and white version. So yeah, so I'm glad you like the black and white version, so which accomplished my goal of testing out whether the audience likes the black and white as well. So
How's it doing on the festival circuit?
it's great. It's great. Yeah, so now we're qualified for the Oscars, so we're
Oh,
hoping to
good.
have an Oscar campaign later this fall. And but yeah, so yeah, we're toward the end of the festival run, and it's almost coming up in a year. So yeah, we're pretty happy about how
So
people responded to it. And
we're probably going to be one of the last festivals your film is in because we're in September while we're recording this in the summer then, huh?
mhm.
Thank you so much for doing this today. Is there anything else you're working on that we should be aware of?
Right now, I'm just polishing a script. It's a trans coming of age romantic fantasy about this high school girl who falls in love with this cute boy in a dream, and then but then she slowly discovers that the boy in the dream might exist in the real life, but she's too afraid to find him and pursue this relationship in real life because she's a closeted trans girl who lives as a boy during real life. So that's
Okay.
the story I'm working on. So hopefully they'll get it made. It's a feature, so I hopefully get it made in a year or 2 or 3 or 4. Depends on how.
Well, good
Yeah,
luck
it's a
on that.
process. So yeah, thank you.